We have extracted all of the weak parts and replaced them with fragments of silicon.
All right, welcome to another installment of the Fragments Silicon Daylight interviews. Joining us this week is Rustam Amirzianov of Rubedo Game.
Yeah, hello everyone.
Hello, how are you doing today?
Yeah, thank you guys. I'm okay.
Good. Right, so how we like to get started is we like to get to know the people behind the games, the studio, and all that business. And we begin with this particular question. What got you interested in video games, both on a personal and a professional level?
So video games. Video games for every one of us is a big adventure, is a big pleasure to play, and I'm very excited of creating games, playing games, and so on. And currently, I'm a lead game designer and producer, and many more at Rubedo Games. As you know, indie games maybe is not really a good choice for people who wants to create only one job, who do only one thing. So you gotta do pretty everything. Yeah.
I mean, it's come up in various capacities. You know, granted, it might depend on the size of the team or the lack thereof. Like, I mean, how big is Rubedo Games?
So currently we are about 8 to 10 people, but sometimes we were about I don't know, maybe even 20 people who helped us to create our first game.
That, by indie terms, that's actually fairly sizable.
Yeah.
Anyway, and so how did Rubedo Games get started?
All right. So, the game development started in August of 2022 when the three founding fathers of the company, Aralhan, Luca, and myself, got together and we decided to make a game that we wanted to play by ourselves. And first, we had a brainstorming session. We suggested a lot of ideas, genres, plot twists, but the main thing was to find an original idea, an interesting feature that would become the core of our future game. And in September of 2022, we already found it. So gradually we rejecting the ideas that we didn't like. We came up with a roguelike action game where the main character could change body parts that he can loot from the enemies. So this was the key idea around which the gameplay started to be built.
I mean, that certainly stands out, if nothing else. I mean, I can't, like, I won't say it's, I can think of a few other games that do that, but very few. And certainly not like this. Like, it does remind me of, I'm not sure if you're familiar with this game called Never Dead.
Never Dead, yeah. Necrosmith uses pretty the same idea, and obviously the Spore, if you remember it.
Spore, the EA game?
Yeah.
Gotta say, I wasn't expecting that in the conversation, but inspiration can take many forms.
Yeah.
And was there a particular light bulb moment that made you all go, swapping out body parts is the way to go?
We just decided to create something. So it takes about 4 months. We transformed the concept into a working idea, working build. So we just made the basis of the combat system, the mechanics of changing body parts, and testing location, some basic UI. And the result was a vertical slice version of the game. And a bit later, we reworked this version of the game and got the alpha, then beta version, in which we expanded the mechanics, added some animations, several types of enemies, bosses, transitions between locations, level generating, VFX sounds, active abilities, and many, many more. So the team just a little bit grew up. I mean, everyone grew in their skills. We decided that I cannot make only game design, and the producer cannot only do his producer things. We decided, so if you're a producer, you can do another work. Now, for example, level design. And
Right.
people just started pretty new things for them. They started the things that they never did before, and decided that if other people can make it, so we can make it as well.
I mean, that is a refrain we've certainly heard before, especially, in the indie world. If you have to do something, you may have to extend out of your normal parameters. That being said, did you have the experience in the industry previous to Rubedo games?
Yeah, we did.
Anything worth noting?
Many of us worked in mobile game industry. Sometimes it's the beginning of the beginning. I I was in localization team. I also worked as a game designer in companies that created some small games, some kind of board games, indie games, and people had pretty the same experience. Most of us had experience about 10 to 12 years in video game industry.
Indeed. And, well, the thing I'm noting here is, it sounds like your previous work was a good distance away from what you're building now. So, was it a difficult transition?
Yeah, it was pretty difficult because you have to start thinking in other directions. Mobile game dev means you need to. I'm sorry, I have to say that. Just suck all the money out of players. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. So this all the features they aimed only for one thing: just get as much money as you can. When you create the game for players, for yourself, of course, you focus on the other things, like the gameplay has to be good, the battle system has to be awesome, and your game, the players can buy your game only one time. So the transition in the first months were quite difficult for us.
That's not surprising.
Yeah.
In fact, I think that's like the least surprising thing here. Like,
Yeah.
Something involving game development being difficult, honestly should be expected, but sometimes people don't anticipate that.
Mm-hmm.
We've certainly heard stories. But anyway, so we've talked about a bit about the actual development of the game, but we haven't really gotten to the game itself, which is called Soulbind: Tales of the Underworld. Now,
Yeah.
for the uninitiated, what is this aside from a roguelike action romp?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's our first project, so we want to recreate the ideas that we liked when we were kids. The first expressions from video games you receive when you're a small child, obviously. And our gaming and life experience influence what we do, and sometimes what we want to do and what we gonna enjoy. So we during the development look at some projects. We took inspiration not only from modern projects like Dead Cells or Vampire Survivors or Skull, but also from classic roguelikes like the original Rogue from 1980, with its atmosphere of adventure and mystery that we would like to transfer to our project, and games of Nintendo Entertainment System era, platformers like Ninja Gaiden or Castlevania. These are the projects that gave us an awesome experience that we would like to recreate in our game. So behind an action and roguelike ideas in our game, we also have the setting, and the setting is based on Yakut epic, the name Alonho, which we modified slightly, but still look back on constantly. And we would like to create the mechanics, the features in our game, like battle system, like the system of active and passive abilities, RPG system as well. We would like to take everything that we liked in other projects, that we liked in old games and modern games, and put it in our project. And we believe that the idea has to work. Has to work.
I mean, that does make sense.
Yeah.
It's like, you enjoyed those games and you want to recreate them for a new audience.
That's right.
Yeah, I think you touched upon the setting a bit, but more to the point, who is this skeleton warrior here? What is he doing? Why is he doing the things that he does?
We would like to tell players about the setting, about the story in our free prologue. Currently, we are developing Soulbind prologue that adds some story, but the main hero, this is the skeleton. He is some kind of a person who cannot die, he has to live, and even if he doesn't, he will be resurrected. And during the game, you'll meet several characters. It's old man and the book, but I'm not gonna tell what do they mean for the main character and what's the story behind them. But the world of our game is quite dark, but at the same time we would like to add some humor and fun, because we are just the people who like to have fun and like to enjoy the game, and it's not only about darkness and corpses and skeletons and death and so on.
Some black comedy, if you will.
Yeah, it's a good description. Yep.
Indeed. And what sort of comedic effect are you looking for here? Like,
Sorry.
like how how do you convey the comedy? Like, is it jokes, pratfalls, sight gags? You know, like, what's the comedy here?
Yeah, it's jokes in the dialogues, and we would like to add some, how can I say, references to the culture, not only the pop culture, but the culture of video games, especially old video games.
Right. I think I know what you're getting at here. Like, this thing seems to be ripe for some riffing on, say, Castlevania or Ghouls and Ghosts.
Yep.
Classic, horror themed platform games. Maybe Resident Evil, Silent Hill.
Yep.
There's a lot of horror things in the world these days. Anyway, now you've said this game is a roguelike, so what's being procedurally generated?
The procedural generation, we use the procedural generation in creating the world, in creating locations. So we have the system of many rooms that generate the level. It's one of the features that we decided to work on. It was one of the first features that we decided to work on, and we still haven't completed, because we just we realized that we need much more content. I mean, we need more types of rooms, types of enemies, types of traps, and so on, that the level generation was that the level generation differed from the other one.
And maybe a tricky question to ask, but how much content do you have in the game now in terms of types of enemies and rooms and all the things that you were just mentioning?
I believe we have about 40-45% of everything that we decided to implement into the game. We have a lot of descriptions of the new enemies, new mechanics, new bosses, new levels, and other, but it's quite a lot of time to create everything and implement into the build. So the most hardest thing to do is to remove interesting mechanics from the game. So, for example, we wanted to give the player the ability to use several arms or several legs on one torso. We had to abandon the idea for a while because of complexity of production such feature. Some abilities of the main character or bosses and mobs still exist only in the form of specs in design document, and we would like to implement them if it would be possible. So yeah, it's pretty hard, but it's a great job. it's interesting every time.
I mean, it's an inherently interesting premise, being able to swap in and out body parts. And I suppose I should ask, what do different limbs do, if anything?
Yeah. Currently, different limbs have different characteristics. Main characteristics like power or constitution, so on. But the main idea is the body parts have active and passive abilities. Active abilities is some kind of magic, wizardry, and passive abilities allow players to improve his skills. How does passive ability works. So this is the main idea. Yeah, they look different. They change an appearance of the player's character, and we have several ideas that we would like to implement into the game. I mean, new body parts that have something special that differ from those body parts that are already in the game. For example, we have an idea to implement body parts of our bosses that players can use them. It would be pretty interesting because bosses have unique abilities, and body parts would change the gameplay.
And would you trying to think of the right way to frame this in terms of those unique boss body parts? Would it be like head, tail, an arm? Would it be different body parts?
Yeah, we have an idea to create the other body parts. And of course, I'm very excited to allow players to get 3 heads or 4 hands to use them in some way.
Well, I suppose that circles back to the whole multiple limbs thing. And, you mentioned that you had to abandon the idea for the reason of complexity.
Yeah.
But, is it just, what was so complex about the idea that prevented you from putting it in the game?
The main problem is the people. The hardest thing is to make people make what you want or what you have to do, because not everyone has the skills to create it. Yeah, and sometimes we understand that the mechanic is quite complicated, is too complicated. It doesn't fit to existing mechanics. And this is the problem. Yeah, of course, it's the problem of game design, obviously. First of all, game designer has to decide which mechanic is good for the game or not, and do we really need it in our game. So we abandoned some mechanics in this way.
Hmm. I mean, that makes sense. Not everything can be worked out, unfortunately.
Yes.
Like, were there anything? Was there any other mechanics or things of that nature that you had to abandon?
Um, I can tell about what happened with our art style. It's not about mechanics, but it is complicated and it is very important, obviously. So our art style was developed by several artists. They suggested different versions of how the game may look. We tried some cartoonish art. We tried dark and gloomy. We tried thick line work like Darkest Dungeon or alt comics style. So, and we had to focus on the fact that body parts from different mobs, they should fit together if the player would like to combine them on the character. And in the end, we came up to what we have now. It's quite gloomy art, hypertrophed forms, a lot of green color. It is the basis of our color palette. And our art style changed, I believe, 3 or 4 times for the last year.
Hmm. And what made you land on the current style?
We just decided it looks pretty good. We asked players, we asked ourselves, we asked our friends and everyone who we could ask, and everybody said, "Yeah, it's awesome. We liked it."
So you are indeed satisfied with how the game looks now?
Mostly, yep.
Really? I guess that begs the question: what still needs to be tweaked here?
We would like to improve our VFX. We have quite a lot of animations, and we would like to make them smoother and better. We would like to add new locations. We would like to add some diversity to the location, some variety. Also, our UI, user interface, was recreated and reconstructed, redeveloped several times. Now we have pretty everything that we need for development, but we would like to improve UI as well.
I mean, it's it's still the developmental period, so that all makes perfect sense. Now, in terms of environments, what do you wish to add to the game?
We would like to add new biomes, new locations with unique art style that differs a lot from everything we created before. We also would like to add some new types of enemies and how they look is a big question for us because their appearance has to fit to the location where you can find them.
Right.
And we spoke with different artists, just the guys that wanted to help us, gave us some advices, and they say that our current style is enough, is good enough for creating something new. So as you can see, we have a green palette, green and brown play, and we can create new locations, new enemies in another play. So we tried some sandy locations. We tried some mechanical locations, and all of this looks quite good. Of course, we have something to improve, and when we implement all of locations, we believe it will look good.
And how many locations are you looking to have by the, let's say, completion of the content?
We would like to add into the game about two new biomes, and each biome has about from 4 to 6 locations.
That seems fairly meaty.
Yeah.
Anyway, so moving onward here, the game is actually out in early access, correct?
Yep.
And how long has it been in early access?
We are in early access for about half of the year, or even more. We still in the progress of development, in the process of development, and we we would like to find the publishers and investors, but it's quite a big problem now.
So I've heard.
Yeah. So we are still in production and in development, but of course it's quite hard to do it without any money, without any support. And we also need new different skills all of the time. So most of the skills we have to study. So it's it takes just a lot of time.
Yep. Like, that being said, how has the feedback been for the from the people who have purchased the game so far?
So we have a pretty good community. The players always help us. They feedback every patch. They tell us about new mechanics, new features, We promoted our game by ourselves, just because we don't have anyone who can do it for us, and it was only after a while that we realized that we have made several mistakes on promoting the game. Just for example, we didn't talk about the game as soon as development started. No one knew anything about it because we were completely immersed in production and completely forgot about marketing. And game promotion and game development, although directly to each other and require different skills and of course a lot of time, and we promoted the game quite late, but we also did it by ourselves. And so we wrote some articles, posted videos, communicated with players, and this only this allowed us to form a small community that offers ideas and helps us finding bugs, for example.
Have you given any consideration to crowdfunding sources?
Yeah, we would like to, but it doesn't really work well now. I believe that the best way now is to complete the game, just to show the player that we hear them and we can do everything they tell us. So we decided that the development is the best way.
And how much more time do you think it will take to complete Soulbind?
We would be happy to complete the game in 6 or 8 months, if it would be possible for us. And of course, we would like to find publisher that could help us in marketing strategy, or just help us in promoting the game, or recreating the game for consoles. It would be a good support. So but if we cannot find the publishers and investors, and we know that we have many successful projects that impress and inspire us, like Terraria, Dwarf Fortress, Adam, Binding of Isaac, Super Meat Boy, and many others. They created everything by themselves. They promoted everything by themselves, and we just can watch them and learn something from them.
I mean, I suppose, just, one of the problems of today's indie world is there's just so many games.
Yeah.
So, hopefully, Soulbind has a strong enough hook here to stand out in the marketplace.
Yep.
All right, so I think I've run through my gamut of questions. I'll see if my colleagues here have anything further for you.
I think I'm good.
I think I'm
Eddie,
good.
you've been playing the.
Yeah, I've been enjoying the game kind of. I think it just bugged out though when I got in this room, which not sure what happened there. It might have been my controller though.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, early access is early access.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Anyway, so with that being said, Rustam, I want to thank you for taking time out of your schedule and being with us here today to talk about Soulbind. It's been a very illuminating conversation, and hopefully you will be able to complete the game in a timely fashion and be able to find the resources needed to, say, bring this game to consoles, among other things. But in the meantime, the game is Soulbind Tales of the Underworld. It's currently available in early access on Steam for $7.99. I suppose I should ask, when do you think the prologue is going to be dropping?
We believe we can drop the prologue in 2 months. It's a free prologue, obviously.
Right.
And like, will the prologue content be wrapped in like people who have the early access version of the game? Is that going to be wrapped into that, or was that just going to be a separate download?
Yeah. Yes.
All right.
Though in the meantime, there is a demo available, so you can try before you buy. And yeah, so be sure to pick it up today. All right.
Yeah.
So that'll about do it for this installment of Fragments of Silicon. As always, be sure to join us next time for the Sunday reviews. And until then, I shall wish you good gaming.